All right. Very good. Excellent. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me for our weekly session when we talk shop, real estate investing, of course. The whole purpose here is to work with you, meet you, engage, get some questions, get your input, just kind of have a discussion. Usually, I just bring something I run across in the previous week, something I was asked by an investor that I found interesting, something that may have been suggested by investor or investor wannabe in one of the sessions or offline. And I think to myself, okay, this is something interesting. I like to share that. The whole purpose is really to share with you my, being who I am from, dealing with or doing real estate investments for a long time. So for those of you who are not familiar or who don't know me well, I'm just going to say my name is Dani Beit-Or. I've been doing real estate investment for about 17 years, only in the US, throughout the US, in multiple markets. But besides actually the activity that I've done for myself, real estate wise, is tiny compared to the amount of investment and activity I've done with our investors. So over the years, I've been working with investors, buying primarily single family homes, over 4,000 single family homes by now over those years, and many flips as well, is something that I'm mostly benefiting from as someone who's doing it for a living. So thank you for taking the time and joining me live. Thank you for joining me on the recording, if that's where you are. We are, by the way, or I am, I should say, putting this on 3 channels so you can consume it on the podcast. We have multiple sessions on the podcast every week on Facebook, on YouTube. So we are in multiple channels. You can benefit, you can share, you can consume. For those of you who speak Hebrew, there is another channel in Hebrew that I produce content as well. So you are most welcome to go and look for real estate investment podcast in Hebrew on your app or whatever. And if you can find it, let me know. We'll share with you the link. So just to give you a little bit of a heads up. So thank you for that. The topic today is multifamily versus single family, something that in age-old discussion from investors. Primarily, where should you start? So I'm not debating. I'm not going to talk about people who have already been doing this for some time and refine their investment strategies one way or another, or continue the same course. I'm just going to try and talk to the beginners who are debating where to go and where to start. And I'm going to start with a warning. I am super biased, and I'll explain why. But I am, for lack of a better term, should say a single family home junkie. So at least now you know where I'm coming from, and I will tell you why this is where I landed and still land and still active, and I'm not maturing or not graduating to multifamily. But let's talk about that in a second. Let's talk about where should you start. And I'm not going to give you the answer. See, usually those sessions, I don't provide answers. I'm trying to accomplish more mind opening, kind of get you thinking about things so you can actually process it yourself and make a decision. At least you have some more thinking to do. So let's talk about, first of all, let's define those 2 categories. Single family home, we all know, a house, right? A home. That's one. Multifamily, for the sake of our discussion, let's call it anything of 5 doors or 5 units and up, okay? Let's just assume for a second that the single family home, we can stretch that terminology into a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, just for the sake of our discussion, okay? I'm not saying anything about it, yet. We can actually have a whole separate discussion on why to do. One second. Okay. Just wrote to myself the next week topic, which is not actually what I just thought. I'm not going to have, we can have a separate discussion on why why to, single family versus duplex versus triplex or fourplex. That's a whole separate discussion. I'm not going to go there. By the way, if you join a little bit late, please press like. Otherwise, I think the system will kick you out. I'm just kidding. No, nothing's going to be kicking you out. I'm just trying to squeeze likes out of you because I know it helps the Facebook algorithm to populate the video. Okay, that was just a joke. Maybe not a good one. Anyway, sake of discussion, single multifamily, 5 units and up. Okay, we can even call it a small multifamily. Let's say 5 units to 25, medium size, anything from 25 units to 50, and then 50 and above. Okay, and I'm not gonna lots of I like it. I'm not gonna go there now. I'm also not gonna talk about the medium and the large multifamilies. Okay, why? Because that's a little bit of a whole different ball game in terms of numbers, in terms of risk, in terms of many things. And by the way, a lot of those larger apartment buildings, complexes are usually or many times being bought by institutions. So let's talk about the beginner investor, single family versus a smaller, multi-unit, 10 units, whatever. Okay, let's just have that conversation in our mind. Now, let's start with the simplicity of why I like single family homes, so you can understand the complexity of the multifamily. Number one, when we are buying a single family, understanding for the beginner, understanding this transaction financially, it's rather easy, right? Here are the numbers. We don't have all the numbers. We know some numbers. We make assumptions on the other. It's hard to get the data. When I say, not hard, it's easy to get the data to run an analysis. What's the estimated rent? It's easy to find. What's the property taxes, insurance, management fee, repairs, all of those things, even if you don't nail them 100% accurately, which we want, it's easier and faster and simpler both to gather the data and to gather the information and analyze it, right? So we have easiness. Plus, this is a lot of professional players are playing in this field. Inspectors, appraisals, the realtors, people who provide, kind of different type of services to this single family home residential industry. Plenty resources on many aspects and level, and relatively inexpensive. Okay, so that's easier to understand financially. Probably not that difficult to understand, the location, schools and crime and the proximity to whatever, metro, downtown, all of those things, rather easy, right? So when I think of a beginner real estate investor, and this investor is starting a journey of considering investment properties, and he's looking at a single family home, I call it the path of less resistance, right? It's going to be an easier path to understand, to analyze, to get the information. Not when I say easier mean the info and data is more accessible, is out there. A lot of people have it. If you need to pay for something, it's probably going to be inexpensive. That, fast. You're not going to spend hours and days, etc., on it, right? That's what is very defined in that territory of investment asset class. When we switch over, right? When we switch over to the multifamily, here's what usually you will find. Not always, but many times, because I've been in that situation. All the simplicity that we have here starts to be complicated, okay? Many times those are small apartment, owners, on the building, maybe not very organized, or maybe maybe they have the proper accounting or not. When we start asking for the information, either from a broker or for an owner, broker selling the property or an owner, you will, in most cases, find it will be a lengthier process. In most cases, takes more time. Not all the information, a lot of holes and not clear. I'm not even always clear what's the occupancy and what's the vacancy and a track record of that. And you will see that all the simplicity of the data of getting, especially financial data, becomes more complicated. Now, inspection, more expensive. Appraisal, more expensive. It's almost a whole different ballgame. So gathering all the data and trying to compile it and bring the information is usually, for some odd reason, with the small multifamily, a more challenging kind of a task. Okay, so right there, we are talking about an easier path for the beginner or a little bit more complex and expensive path for the beginner, right? Where do you want to be? Now, if you start with the single family, or can you switch to the multi? Absolutely. You will learn a lot with the easier path. You're taking smaller steps and then say, okay, I've done enough transactions, 2, 3, 10, whatever, that I feel that I can switch over and I have the experience. Do they operate exactly the same? No. Are there a lot of similarities, technicalities, jargon, terminology, and resources? Absolutely. They share a lot, but they're still different, right? So right there, you probably, as a beginner, you may not want to jump to the deeper, end first before you go to the shallow water for your sake, right? So I know sometimes we are debating on our own resources. I don't have money to go in both directions. I only have money to go here, or maybe buy 2 here or 1 here, whatever. But I'm just saying here is simple and easy. The single family, this is this, right? Right hand, left hand is more complicated. Expect more complication. By the way, complication or challenges or obstacle also mean opportunity, but more time consuming, right? And more doubt and more insecurities, right? Confidence is also very important. So remember those 2 things. Now, I want to mention a few more things. Many times, the value of your multifamily, sorry, that's the multifamily, I should write here, multi, right, left hand, is based on the occupancy, right? So you have a higher value or it's more expensive when the occupancy is higher, and vice versa. So it's a little bit tricky. Many times in this category of buildings, you will see you are going to a C-class kind of a category type of property and area. So you are a little bit compromising, or a lot, on the demographic or economical profile of your tenants, which may or will probably result with more issues, problems, noise in the system, right? Versus not a D class single family home, but maybe even a C or A and B class single family home, which you will still have noise as owner. There's always going to be noise in the system. Noise in the system is vacancies and repairs and tenant issues. That's called noise. It's always going to be there. But most likely, when you deal with an A, B, and even C class single family home, the amount of noise is not going to be as much as with a multifamily. I like those hands. All right, good. Now, one more thing. When you're selling, right? When you need to sell, so if you're selling at the leisure, no pressure, yeah, no problem. Probably you'll do just well with trying to sell them both. But you need to execute because there's some financial crunch in your life for whatever reason. And let's say you have a multifamily of 10 units, or let's just say 10 single family homes for a second, okay? Which one is going to be easier to liquidate, right? 100% of a multi-unit, or maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or even 5 of the single family homes, right? Probably the single family home is going to be easier to liquidate, right? Less buyer for the multi, more buyers for the single family, right there, okay? So keep that in mind. I think it's very important on the what ifs, right? If you need to sell, altogether, especially if this is a more of a fire sale or something that happening. Like when you have 10 single family homes, you don't have to sell all 10 in order to generate $100,000 or 200, whatever, into your life, which is not always going to be the case with the multi. I'm not saying that's the only option is to sell. I'm just expressing with that option when that comes. The other thing that I want you to reflect on is when the way I looked at it is always people tell me, but with the multifamily, there's the economy of scale. And you're probably right about that. However, the economy of scale is not it's actually a tricky one, because you're probably going to be needing still the same resource to support each building or each structure, no matter even if it's a smaller apartment, multi-unit, or a bigger one, right? So sometimes the overhead expenses of the small multi are going to burden you more than the equivalent of multiple single-family homes. Okay, so the way I always looked at it is, so the economy of scale not always work in your favor, right? I think there's I haven't looked into it, but there should be some sort of a tipping point after a certain amount of units. The economy of scale shifts, but the way I looked at it is, let's say one apartment building will cost you the same as 10 single-family homes. And let's say you want them to behave like an apartment building. What are you going to do? You're going to buy them, let's say, in the same city, same area, same metro. In a way, they're going to be separate units, but you can look at it as your virtual apartment building, and you have the same resources on the ground supporting either one. So there's a very good chance it will cost you even less to support those 10 than the building itself, right? So it depends on a few factors. So I just want you to kind of think about it and all those aspects. I think that I'm not saying apartment buildings are wrong or bad or single family or vice versa. I'm just saying I want to point those aspects. I will say this: to buy 5 or 10 single family homes with mortgages, that's going to be a hustle. The lending side of it is going to be painful, okay? And it's probably going to be much more painful than buying one single family or one apartment building, okay? Because you have to go 10 times through all those lending practices and obstacles or challenges. They're annoying. Let's just call it annoying, right? So absolutely, there is a disadvantage when you buy it with a mortgage, no doubt. So that's annoying, but you have to decide if you're willing to go through that or not. And I will say that if you think that going through buying 10 mortgages for 10 single family homes is annoying, don't think for a second that going and buying an apartment building with one mortgage, commercial loan, is going to be easy. That's going to be annoying and most likely not as good terms as you will get on those 10 single family homes. So there is a trade-off here, right? I'm sure one mortgage, is annoying as it may be, it's going to be less annoying than 10 mortgages, but don't think for a second this is going to be easy, one mortgage and 10 difficult ones. It's going to be one difficult or 10 difficult, and both of them are going to be somewhat annoying in one level or another. So this is everything I wanted to share about those things. If you ask my opinion, I think you can understand where I'm coming from. But I am a single family home junkie. I like it for many reasons. But I know that's my flavor. It doesn't mean that it's everybody's flavor. But I do want it to bring a little bit of an input or insight or some thinking to your mindset. The person who's kind of debating where should I go, where should I start, or maybe someone who's actually started and trying to debate where to go next. So that's everything I wanted to cover on my end. I see a question already coming up. So by all means, before I take it, I want to say, if you have any more questions, please put them, as a comment. It doesn't have to be related to the topic. It could easily be related to something else. Hopefully, we can keep it with the realm of real estate investing and not talk about the some IPOs that took place this week, because I have nothing to contribute on that topic. Okay. And by the way, 483. So if you wanna meet with me one-on-one in a more intimate environment, phone call, Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, face-to-face, if you're in Southern California, let me know. Just get in touch with me, with Kenny, with any one of us through the website, Facebook, email, however you see fit, and I'll be happy to set up a time with you. And also, if you want to get my free ebook about rentals and flips, easy read, simple read, kind of very logical, just email us and we will be happy to send it to you. So just email us at let's say meet simply simplydoit.net. Meet at simplydoit.net. This is something, meet as in meeting, at simplydoit.net. That's easy if you want to do hold a meeting with us or get the ebook, no problem. Okay. Multifamily as a single owner or part of a group. I am referring primarily to in this conversation to a single owner, not as part of the group. If you're part of the group, then it's a little bit, a shuffle, things around. There's advantages and disadvantages to that. Actually, we talked about it in one of the lives. So that's where I'm coming from. Yeah, if you're going as a group, I think you still want to kind of consider one or the other for the same reasoning. But maybe if you're going as a part of a group, you probably want to look into, you want to be passive. For me, group means you want to be more passive, which is obviously, there's nothing wrong with it, of course. It's actually a good thing if it fits your comfort level, comfort zone, experience, etc. It's great. So if you join a group that buys, a lot of the bigger groups, they usually don't want to deal with single family homes. They want to deal with apartment buildings. If that makes sense to you, by all means, that's fine. A lot of that noise I was talking about, you're not going to be dealing with it anyway. So the group manager is the person who's going to be dealing with, and you're going to be passive. Hopefully, that's usually the benefit. Can you give bottom line as an answer for those who cannot hear all of this video? Bottom line answer. Bottom line answer, in my opinion, is single family home I like better for the smaller investor and the beginner investor over multifamily for the different reasons I mentioned throughout. So I hope, Erez, this is answers what you were asking for. If not, let me know. I will refine or answer a little bit better. I hope it does. Very good. Are there any additional questions? I'm gonna just wait here for a few more seconds and see if something else is coming. Hello, good evening, Slavi. Good to see you. Perfect. Very good. So for those of you who just joined, we are just wrapping up. But as you may suspect, it is being recorded here on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the podcast. So you can consume it later on as a recording. We will wrap it up. I'm seeing no additional questions are coming, so we will wrap it up for today. I want to thank you very much for taking the time on a Friday to join me. We hold this on a weekly basis with different topics. I already have a feeling what I want to talk about next week. If there's something you think you would like to know or ask, please do. I'll be happy to consider it for sure. This is for me an engagement, a discussion, although I do most of the talking, but that's the whole plan here. So thank you very much. Hey, sounds good. Hear me on the podcast. Have a terrific rest of your day and a great weekend, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Bye bye.